Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunatu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
So almost 25 days ago we started on this Ashtavakra Gita journey. It is an inner journey. It is not a journey through the pages of the book, but it is a journey that we take within, that takes us from the external to the inside, and then help us establish in the ultimate idea of awareness consciousness in which everything else is happening. So we learn to rightly identify ourselves with our awareness, not with our body or not with our mind and emotions that go on there. So that is the exercise that we must keep doing every day, practicing to stay in that awareness consciousness for some time at least, if not all the time. But slowly, steadily, even one step at a time, we get to the goal. So the idea is that we must get to the goal. But without walking, we can never go to the goal. Long walk to freedom. So Ashtavakra Gita is a long walk to freedom, but inner freedom. And like external freedom or outer freedom is attained through struggle, freedom struggle, through various other efforts, including sacrifice. Likewise, this freedom within also has to be attained through some struggle and effort. It won't just drop from the heavens like into your palm. It has to be earned, it has to be practiced, and with that constant, consistent practice only, one is able to appreciate and understand whatever is being told. So Janaka started with the question, how do I attain moksha? How do I attain wisdom? How do I attain dispassion? So at least he knew all these things are important in life, dispassion and liberation and wisdom. So these are the three things he asks. Remember the story from Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's life and Vivekananda. This young Narendra, who was very much in dire straits. His father had passed away, there were loans to pay, and he had a younger brother, sister, they had to go to college, and they had nothing left because whatever they had, they lost to their property disputes with the uncle. He was a graduate, law graduate from the UK, and he could have easily taken up a job in the courts of the British Empire and could have been a barrister and earned decent living. Those times it was a good living for the people who were lawyers. But he had already been blessed by Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa to pursue another path. So he was kind of torn between the two worlds. On one side, there was this responsibility of the family, the home, the sister, brother, mother, everybody. On the other side, this was the pursuit of spiritual path, which was not allowing him to go towards the family way. And the mother thought we will get him married and we'll get a good hefty dowry and that will solve some of our problems. And that is how they wanted to get him married. And they even took him to see the girls. And every time they take this young boy Narendra to see a girl for marriage, Ramakrishna Paramsa will go running to the mother goddess Kali in his temple, catch hold of her feet and cry, please don't allow this marriage to happen. And he would shed tears saying, don't allow Narendra to be bound by the samsara. You alone can sever the bonds of samsara. So do not allow this to happen. So every time he will pray to Mother Kali and divine will always prevails over human will. As they say, man proposes and God disposes. So every time they will take him to see another girl to marry and in the hope of some dowry, which will solve their family problems, financial problems. Mother would not allow that because Ramakrishna would not allow that. He would catch hold of her feet and cry. And Ramakrishna, when he cries, mother has to listen to him because he was so innocent and pure. Mother could not say no to him. So in such a state of flux, this young Narendra, disturbed by all that was happening, comes to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and says, please tell your mother to look after me, to give us what we need, to look after our family. It seems she listens to you. He says, why she should only listen to me? She listens to everybody. She is everybody's mother. You can also go and ask her. She will give you also. Why only me? Go ask her. So he goes inside the temple to ask her for boons. And what happens is, when he goes inside, he's lost with the charm and beauty of that mother goddess. He can't remember a thing. So the mother does not want him to ask this worldly thing. So she captures his mind. He can't ask a thing. So what happens then? He goes inside and says, Amake bhakti dao, jnana dao, vairagya dao, he says. Give me bhakti, jnana and vairagya. Same thing what Janaka is saying. Mukti, jnana and vairagya. Bhakti is mukti in a way. So he asks bhakti, jnana, vairagya. And when he comes out, Ramakrishna Paramsa asks him, so did you finish asking the mother? He says, I just could not ask. I couldn't remember. Then what did you do inside? I asked her for bhakti, jnana, vairagya. Though very well, but that's not going to feed your family. Go back and ask again. This time be very firm. Don't forget to ask. So he goes inside, again goes inside and forgets everything and asks for bhakti, jnana and vairagya. And outside this, Ramakrishna Paramsa and the mother are sitting and having a hearty laugh at his plight. And then again, second time he goes, nothing he asks. Ramakrishna sends him for the third time as well. Says, go back and ask again, what is this? How can you forget? It is so important for you and your family. Go ask. Again he sends him. Poor Vivekananda, Narendra then goes inside, forgets again. And only to tears he asks, give me bhakti, jnana and vairagya. And mother naturally says, Tathastu, she is pleased. So when he comes out, Ramakrishna teases him, you are no good. You can't even ask a thing properly. What will you do in life? And things like that. And Narendra says, I know this is not something that I wanted to do. It is you and your mother who have cast a spell on me and they are not allowing me to ask. And Ramakrishna then laughs and says, don't worry about your family and your things. I will see to that they get what is a mota bhat, mota kapda. It means you'll get to wear some linen, cotton, not silk and satin. And also you will get to eat food, not some refined five-star menu, but simple food that will keep the bone and the flesh together. I will assure that much, he says. And with that, his asking ends. Then Narendra never goes back and asks mother for anything. So that is how God chooses his people to tell the world what matters and what does not matter. And even if you go and ask, if God is really interested in you, like Mother Kali was interested in Vivekananda, she would not allow him to ask for unnecessary things. Because it won't come to such a person who is devoted to God. All the other petty, paltry matters, he knows it's under God's care. And whatever God provides, we will eat and be happy. So also, a lot of great saints are there who are like that. They never asked for anything. If something comes by virtue of the divine grace, let it happen. So also it so happens that once Vivekananda was traveling in a train, after that he becomes a Parivrajaka. Once Ramakrishna passes away, he makes him in charge of his brother disciples and says, you take to this path of monkhood, gives them all ochre clothes. And with that, no word spoken, just he blesses them with ochre clothes, he passes away. Mother Sharada guides these young monks who were ridiculed, laughed at, even ostracized, and were even called escapists and so many things, beggars and parasites and all kinds of. These are all very well educated boys and young and able, but they all had taken to this path. So they lived in a small broken house, and whatever happens, there's a story. If you can read, God lived with them. You will hear a lot of these things. And they lived with God is another set of stories of disciples with Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So everybody's story. Now, one day when he was traveling in a train, it so happens that there is a merchant who is sitting opposite rich man. And he is ordering food and water, buying from the station, eating, whereas Vivekananda has no money. He's just sitting there eating nothing, no water to drink, no food to eat. And this cruel, heartless co-traveler merchant, he keeps calling him, you people are all parasites, you are young, able-bodied people, but you don't want to work hard, you want to sit and enjoy other people's hard labor. You people are no good in the name of sannyasa. You people are fooling the society and this and that, his whole journey. And he says, you don't even have money to buy water and food. What will you do in life? And so on. So, but he keeps on ranting, but Vivekananda does not respond. He says, my God is there to look after me. God will look after me. He says, let me see how your God looks after you. So he gets down at the next station. Vivekananda also gets down. And just as he gets down, person comes with a mat tugged in under his arms and a basket full of food and sweets and savories looking for somebody. And then when he spots Vivekananda, he immediately runs to him and says, Swamiji, are you so and so? He said, yes. He said, oh, please have a seat. He spreads the mat on the floor and offers him all the food and water. He says, "Who are you and why are you doing this for me?" He says, "I run a small sweet meat shop here, which is in the afternoons I take a nap. I was taking my nap when Lord Venkateshwara appeared in my dream. And he told there is one monk who is just arriving at the station and he will alight at this particular station. You go there and feed him some food because he's hungry." And that merchant who was ridiculing him all this while, he looks at, he's watching what's happening. And so it is given to him. And Vivekananda enjoys the food and thanks the person. Obviously, this was another episode in Swami Vivekananda's life where when that is needed, it will be provided. You depend on God and you don't depend on the world. That was the idea. So that Ramakrishna Paramsa taught him this. So depend only on God. There are many stories. Of course, he goes through his trials and tribulations. It's not that God makes it very easy. If you want to fix a nail on fix a picture on the wall, you have to fix the nail well. If the nail is shaky and not strong enough, and you hang a very expensive art piece, it will break and collapse, and it will be a wasted effort. So the God's ways are like that. As Swami used to say, test is my taste. I taste my devotees by testing them, whether they are really sweet or they are still bitter, whether they have ripened or they are still raw. And that test is a part of life. You cannot just say, I don't want any tests, but I just want all the grace. That doesn't happen. When you come to spiritual path, you will be tested to the hilt. Your nail will be shaken and given enough blows till you almost are about to give up. But then something in you tells you, this is for my good and I must do what is right, which is to be devoted and have faith. And then things change. If you read our book, Story Divine itself, you'll go through, especially the second part, you'll come to know a lot of these things. So God doesn't leave you so easy. If He wants to give you the highest, He will shake and see whether you are even capable of holding it. Otherwise, you will drop it and it will get wasted. Likewise, test is God's taste, and you have to remember that. If you are going through some tests which you call as tests, God will say, I'm just tasting, but you will say, you are troubling me and testing me. Remember these great personalities. Forget about think like Jesus Christ and others, what they went through, or Buddha, or people like that. But they never left the path of God. They never left the side of God. That is their ultimate strength, that they depend on God and not on the world. So Janaka, I'm saying this is because when it comes to Janaka now, Janaka will be tested too. See, disciple says, I have learned, but the master wants to doubly make sure that it is true, what he's saying is true, and he understands what he's saying. So also remember, this is a poetry. So it is brought out in a conversational way, and that is our typical Upanishads. All our conversations between Guru and Shishya, question and answer kind of method. Today it's a very done thing, FAQs and things like that, frequently asked questions. And so these were those. They have been designed like that. Don't take it literally that, oh, Janaka realized God already, Ashtavakra already realized God. They knew each other. Then why is Ashtavakra asking such very sharp questions now? Very blunt questions now. You shouldn't ask like that. No, that is the way to continue the story so that we learn in the process. When Bhagavad Gita was taught to Arjuna, we all learnt in the process and we are still learning. Likewise, this is a learning process. This is a journey. So first time when Ashtavakra has taught him and Janaka has claimed that he has understood and experiencing the oneness, now it's time for Ashtavakra to test and check whether Janaka has really understood with deep understanding of the subject or has only understood intellectually. Like this is our journey too. We all would have understood by the time of second chapter, we all might be feeling like Janaka, some of us might be. They'll be thinking, oh, I've understood everything, I've become a Brahmagyani. That reminds me of another joke. Shall I tell now or later? We are here to listen to jokes or Ashtavakra Gita? There was a place where everybody claimed to be Brahmagyani. So all the people in the village will talk, or kingdom would be saying, we are all Brahmagyanis. So a real Brahmagyani, a guru comes to that village and says, I'm here to preach about God and Brahmagyana. No, we don't need you. We all know a Brahmagyana. You don't need to bother about us. He says, really? Such a place exists where everybody is a Brahmagyani? He says, yes, we are all Brahmagyanis. Because they all had read these books and Upanishads and things like that. He says, let me really test whether these people are real Brahmagyanis. So what he does by his Yoga Maya, makes the king fall sick. So when the king is sick, there's no cure for the medicine. Because of this Yoga Maya, he's created this confusion. So all the Vaidyas, the doctors in the town, in the kingdom are summoned. All try to cure him, but none of them are able to cure the king of his ailment. So finally, this Brahmagyani who is roaming around, he claims that I know how to cure this. Take me to the king. So because the people were very desperate to save their king, they take him. He goes to the palace, checks the king, and then he says, I know what is the cure for this king's disease. I will have to prepare a special medicine. And that medicine shall be made with half a pound of flesh from any Brahmagyani in the kingdom. Anybody who is a Brahmagyani has to give half a pound of flesh from his body, and with that I will prepare this new medicine, with that king will be cured. The king says, that's not a problem, everybody is Brahmagyani in my kingdom, take anybody's flesh. All run away saying, we are not Brahmagyanis, we are all Brahmagyanis. So we think we are Brahmagyanis, but till the real test happens. When the test comes, then Brahmagyana disappears. They are not even willing to part with half a pound of flesh from their bodies for the sake of saving their kings. And they all have been claiming that they were all Brahmagyanis and they have no desire for body or no attachment to things like that. So this is where God sometimes put tests to check whether what we say, do we really believe, we really experience that, or we are simply speaking because पोथी पढ़ी पढ़ी जग मुआ पंडित भयाना कोई ढाई आकर प्रेम का पढ़े सो पंडित होए, says Kabir Das. People have read books after books, but nobody has become a true pandita. The one who has understood this 2.5 lettered word called prema or love, he is alone the pandit. All others are fools only. Though they have lot of wisdom in terms of bookish knowledge, the real knowledge does not exist them because they have not developed love, common equal love for all beings. Then you are not a pandit. So it's so simply he has put it. So Brahmagyana also needs to be checked. Janaka seems to say he is a Brahmagyani. So our Ashtavakra is going to now get into the nuances of if you are truly a Brahmagyani, what you should be like, what should be your attitude, what should be your thought process, what should be your feelings like. And then he starts questioning one by one. So the first shloka is on 200 page of the third chapter. And the chapter itself is, I think, called as Ashtavakra Challenges Janaka. So Ashtavakra Uvacha Avinashinam Atmanam Ekam Vijnaya Tattvataha Tavatmajnana Dhirasya Katham Arthar Jane Ratihi. He says, Ashtavakra says, the one who knows Avinashinam, imperishable is Atmanam, the self. And Ekam, this is only one, not many. Vijnaya, knowing this in this way, Tattvataha, completely, with an experiential understanding, the one who knows this, Tava, to such a person, Atmajnana Dhirasya, the one who has understood the Atmajnana and become Dhira. Remember, Dhira is the word we use for those who are discriminating ones, who are courageous to walk the spiritual path. So Atmajnana Dhira is the one who knows all this truth by experience. For such a person, Katham Arthar Jane Ratihi, where is the desire or where is the delight or interest in earning anything? Artha means wealth in general parlance. But why should such a person be interested in wealth or earning more wealth? Now, artha can be also thought of as anything that you desire for, like Vidyarthi is there. Vidya is his artha. He wants education, wants knowledge, so he's Vidyarthi. There is a Sukharthi who expects only pleasures. Like that, there are other Dhanarthi who wants only the wealth. So artha is resources or some kind of wealth. So such a person who has understood it completely, tattvataha, that self is imperishable, self is only the one without the second, and such a person who has completely understood this thing, why should such a person ever be engaged in the pursuit of wealth or other things of the world? Why should such a person be in pursuit of worldly things? This is the question he is asking. So he is making Janaka think. I just now said I am not interested in anything, I am the self, I am without the second, I am like the wave, water, ocean, all that. But he is still a king and he must be interested in generating revenue for the kingdom, collecting taxes and apportioning it for various projects and things. And then his own managing his palace and his servants and his army and everything else. He should have interest in artha. Otherwise, how can he be a king? So he is questioning Janaka. If such a person who knows the self as the only one without the second and indestructible in its nature, where is such a person going to be interested in the pursuit of any worldly thing, especially the wealth? Because remember from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, we know the story of Da, Da, Da. Yesterday it was asked in the question, what are the Das for Devatas? What is the Da for Danavas, and what is the Da for Manavas? The humans. And it was said Devatas have to do Dama, which is to restrain themselves because they have a lot of power. Rakshasas, Daityas, who are demons, they have to control and be practicing Daya, which is compassion, because their nature is cruelty. What is human nature? Humans are greedy by nature. Therefore, humans were told to practice dana, charity, because when you do charity, your greed comes down, they say. So, only greedy people cannot do charity. Only greedy people cannot give away anything. They want to hold on to everything and more. Only those people who are not greedy only will give. So, they were told dana. So, the idea is that the one who is interested in higher self, where is the question for such a person to be greedy about anything in the life? When he knows nothing is real, nothing is permanent, self alone is real, where is such a person interested? Where is the desire for such a person for anything of the world? That is the question he's asking Janaka, because he wants to check whether Janaka has really understood, has he really attained that state where he's not really interested in wealth and other things, because men want wealth, that is their first desire. I want to be wealthy. So whole life goes in chasing money. And that is what I say. First half of the life is spent, you spend your health to earn wealth, then you spend all your wealth to earn your health. This is the life of human beings now. So human nature is greedy. So he's questioning Janaka, have you gotten rid of all your greed? Because Janaka is a Kshatriya. He is greedy for power, for land, for wealth. That is his nature. So have you overcome that nature still, the lower nature, when you're talking about such big things? If you look at Bhagavad Gita, it says, once who attains Atma Jnana, Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha, Krishna is asked by Arjuna. And Krishna replies, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. All the desires of the mind when you give up. Atmanyeva atmana tushtaha sthita prajnastadochyate. When he becomes totally satisfied with himself, without having any desires left. Like Meera says, koi din hathi to koi din ghoda, koi din paidal chalna ji. करना फकीरी तो क्या दिलगिरी सदा मगन में रहना जी. What does it matter to a fakir who has given up everything, whether he is riding an elephant or a horse or walking barefoot? Doesn't matter to a fakir. So if Janaka has realized, then he should be Atma Jnani, and Atma Jnani means Sita Prajna. Sita Prajna means desireless. Has he attained that desireless state is something that Ashtavakra is checking on him. Now desires are something, they don't leave us very easily. In fact, the reason for us to be born again and again is Kama karma, that is one desire, kama, and then karma. To follow that kama desire, we need to do action. And action will lead to reaction. Reaction will lead to further desires. And this is an endless cycle in which we are caught forever. So how to get rid of desire? When we cut grass, we have garden, we maintain lawns. When we cut grass, what happens? Grass grows back again. The only way grass won't grow back is when you uproot it. You completely remove it from the roots. In Jain monks, they will go and pull out all their hair from the roots so that it doesn't grow back. It must be a painful process, but they happily do it in a ceremony in front of so many. And young people are becoming monks in Jain system. They celebrate monkhood. In the Hindu system, if somebody is becoming monk, whole village will come together and cry. Idea is that when you uproot the hair, then the hair doesn't grow back. If you only cut the hair, it will grow back again. If you uproot the grass, it won't grow back. If you only cut the grass, it will grow back. Like the desires of an Atma Jnani cannot be just trimmed. They are the ones which have been uprooted from there. And a beautiful shloka in Bhagavad Gita, in second chapter it comes. Person who is not interested in the worldly desires can abstain from it. Right? Can practice abstinence. Can practice distancing. Can practice, in a way, discarding those desires. How Vishaya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dehinaha. A person, Dehinaha, means the one who is in the body, can withdraw from the Vishayas, from the sensory pleasures, by staying away from it, by starving himself of it. Can manage that. But is it a permanent solution? No. So what is the permanent solution? It says, Rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Rasavarjam means taste for such things should be ceasing in you, should stop in you, even taste for such thing. Rasopyasya, not just physical taste for sensory pleasures, mental desire for it also should disappear. See, one sannyasi or a sadhaka can stay away from physical desires because he can go away to a forest where there is nothing to really enjoy. That is why they run away to forest, because the first step is avoid the confrontation with the desires only. Because I always say, desires are like their Vali. If you come in front of it, he will take away 50% of your power first. So you're already helpless. So don't even confront desire. Don't think that you can somehow deal with desire. No, you can't deal with desires. It will overpower you at any point in time. It takes away all your sense of discrimination. So the best of way is to avoid confronting it. When you know there is a bunch of dogs who are there waiting in that road and they can bite you, why do you want to go by that street? No, I'll deal with those dogs. Don't even go, and why unnecessary? Take another route, avoid them. Like that, avoid the confrontation of desires. Where you think there is going to be a desire that's going to latch on to you, better avoid that person, avoid that street, avoid that place, avoid anything that will take you to that path. So that is one step, but that is not permanent, because how long can you keep avoiding? So the other option is param drishtva. When you realize the self, the desire gets uprooted from the root. It goes away. It means that the lurking mental aspiration also for it disappears. Physical, we can restrain ourselves. Mentally, how do you restrain? Mind cannot be limited. Mind cannot be bound by four walls. Mind cannot, even in forest, mind can think of the city, isn't it? Mind is unrestricted. So it says only when you realize the self that mind also becomes free of desires. So physically being free of desires is easier but not permanent. Mentally being free of desires is a permanent solution. It happens to who? It happens to those who have realized the self. But I always tell, mind is very tricky. It needs something to latch on to. So if you develop taste for God, then you will slowly get rid of the taste for the world. Like a child when he's born, it's only wanting mother's milk. He'll cry every few hours to drink milk, breast milk. After some time, the mother would dissuade the child from drinking breast milk and start feeding the other foods. Annaprashna is done. But the first thing what the child does is spits it out. It doesn't like it. Why it spits? It doesn't like the taste of it. It doesn't like the taste of rice or anything else that is external. It wants only the milk of the mother. But mother has to teach the child to eat other foods because it has to grow. It can't be drinking mother's milk all its life. So slowly the mother dissuades the child from the taste of the milk and persuades the child to develop a taste for the external food. Likewise, mind is like that. You tell the mind, be desireless. It won't listen. Then what should we do? Replace the lower desires with higher desires. Replace the desire for the world with the desire for God. But how do you develop the taste for God? By being in the company of people who enjoy God, who relish God, who experience the joy of God, and they are not interested in worldly joys. To be in the company of the right people, satsanga is the way to start developing this desirelessness. You cannot, if you realize the self, it's a different matter. Your property itself changes. Like mercury changes into gold. The alchemist can do that. It's one atomic weight difference. So he changes what, I don't know, the proton from here or there. But you are changed from mercury to gold. Mercury is very restless. It is also poisonous. Whereas gold is stable. That's why people buy gold, because it is shiny and stable forever. It never gets corrupted or never gets corroded. But mercury, that's why when people who have short temper, they call them, they have mercurial temper. Suddenly they shoot up like that. Because it's very restless in nature. It is not steady. But the moment you change its property into gold, it becomes steady. For millions of years, it can stay the same way without getting corroded. That is the beauty of gold. Likewise, once you realize the self, your nature itself changes from seeking the world to seeking God. Somebody who relishes the world to somebody who relishes God. Somebody who has taste for the world to somebody who has taste only for God. That is how your nature changes. But till then, what is the process? Stay in the company of people, good people, people who are devoted to God, who are also following this path of sadhana and who are also walking this path. That's why living in a community of such people is very helpful in spiritual sadhana. By oneself, one can get bored and give up. But in a community of good people, one is motivated to continue the journey. So it is, Janaka is being checked whether you have really given up the desire for things, because you are by nature you are a king and you should be desirous for kingdom, wealth, progeny and all that. So are you really still like that? One more thing I thought, just a cross reference, I'll quote this also from what is Vairagya, what is desirelessness, comes from Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It says Drishta Anushravika Vishay Vitrishnasya Vashikara Sangya Vairagyam, which means Drishta, what you have seen, Anushravika, what you have heard or heard from somebody, Vishaya, about the sensory things, Vitrishnasya, you develop dispassion for it, no desire for it, and develop control over that. Vashikara. You should be able to control the desire for such thing which you have heard about or you have seen or heard from somebody. That is Vairagya. Your desires should cease. That is Vairagya. The other thing he says, this is even more beautiful, the next of the Patanjali says, Tat Param Purusham Khyataihi Guna Vaitrishnyam. Means when you realize the self, Parama Purusha, then Guna Vaitrishnyam. Even gunas, remember the desire which are innate, not the external. Deep under we have still harbor those desires secretly. Even those get destroyed. It means they get uprooted when only by realizing the self. So till you realize the self, you have to work on controlling or replacing desires with better desires. But once you have realized the self, the desire should itself disappear. Like when sunlight shines, the dew disappears. Like that, it should just disappear from the root. That happens only with the realization of the self. So it's like self-fulfilling. You reduce the desires and realize the self. Once you realize the self, there are no desires anymore. So that is how it helps being in the right company. So this is how Janaka should be now. Now that he claims to have realized the self, Janaka should be behaving like a desireless, ever satisfied self. Cannot be again going back after 4 chapters, thank you for the discourse, but can I go and attack the next kingdom and expand my territories? And those questions he cannot ask anymore. What about this? What about that? Not allowed, because he is not having such desires anymore. If he's duty bound and duty demands, then he may do things, but otherwise he would just not do things. So that is the idea. So the next sloka, with that we go to 3.2. Again, Ashtavakra is continuing and further, dissecting the thought process of Janaka by again instigating him and asking him this question. Atma agyanat daho pritihi vishaya brahmagochare shukter agyanato lobha yatha rajata vibhrame. Atma agyanat, without the Atma knowledge of the self, because of the ignorance of the self, here he uses the word aho. All this time Janaka was using that exclamation aho, but this time Ashtavakra uses as if almost teasing him in his same way, saying, aho, look at that, what a wonder. What is the wonder? Without the knowledge of the self, people develop love and affection for Vishaya, the sensory objects, sensual pleasures, Brahmagochare, which are nothing but illusions to the eyes. The mirage is an illusion, it doesn't really exist. Yet, somebody says, I know what is a mirage, and yet runs behind mirage. What kind of wonder is that? Ashtavakra is almost sarcastically questioning the ways of people who say we are Brahmagyanis and yet run behind the worldly desires. Are you one of them, or have you transcended? Is the subtle hint that Ashtavakra is giving. How it is happening for the people who are unaware of the self? Shukter agyanato lobha, like in the mother of pearl, the silvery shine is there. Somebody who sees from far thinks it's a piece of silver and runs for it. Yatha rajata vibhrame, just that by brahma, by illusion, silver seems to appear in mother of pearl and people become desirous of it, thinking they are going to get silver. Likewise, the one who does not know the self becomes infatuated with the illusory pleasures of the world. So he has again used the same terms what Janaka has used earlier. He also uses this, how Rajat in this Shukta, same way what he used earlier, the same words he's asking again. Are you really convinced about it? If so, then there should not be any desire left in you. You should not pursue any of the worldly things out of that illusion that they really exist. That is the idea he is trying to reinforce or re-emphasize in Janaka. That if you have really become desireless, then you should not be fooled by the illusory sense of joy or pleasure that comes out of worldly things. You should not. Like the dog, he doesn't know, so he goes on biting the bone, a dry bone, and the blood is flowing from its own teeth. It does not realize it, keeps drinking the blood, thinking the bone is giving me the joy of drinking blood. But its own blood it is sucking. Likewise, a jnani would see through the illusory attachments and pleasures of the world, whereas ajnani will continue to chase after it. That's what most of the people all through their lives are doing, because they don't know it is unreal. They keep chasing it, and finally they fall into their own graves because their desires don't end, they end. So this is quite simple. So I'll go to the next shloka. Third, it says, Again, it's Ashtavakra who continues. Vishwam spurati yatridam taranga iva sagare. Same words as Janaka who had used. Soham asmiti vijnaya kim dina iva dhavasi. He says, where the world emanates, waves emanate out of the ocean. When one knows that I am the self, then why would such a person run around like a beggar asking for pleasures of the world when he knows the world is illusion, like the waves are an illusion in the ocean of consciousness? Desires, vikaras are illusions only. This body is illusion, the relationships are illusion, all that we attain through these bodies are illusion. Once somebody knows it in a confirmed way, then why would somebody run around like a beggar seeking the pleasures of the world? Now think of all those people who stand in the temple and beg. So we keep on begging. That's why Swami said, don't be a beggar, be bigger, he used to say. Don't be a beggar, be bigger. This is bigger. Bigger is Atma Jnana, who knows the self, doesn't have any desire for things. So doesn't go and ask and beg for it. Those who are Ajnanat, Atmagyanis are there, who do not have knowledge of the self, they think all this is real and go on begging. Go on begging. When the Jnani realizes the world is illusory, the joys of the world also looks like so silly and petty that he does not put efforts behind them, does not run behind them, and worst of all, beg and beg in front of God. Please give me this, give me this. So many siddhis, tapasyas, God knows what all people do. Some worldly people will run behind money, the other people run behind siddhis. Something or the other we want all the time. So desire is the reason why we are bound. Asha Pasha, they say. One bhajan is there, no? Nirupama Guna Sadhana, Niraja Dalanayana, Kashayambara Veshadharana, Kaliyuga Avatara, Nitya Ranjana, Nirmala Charita, Nirupama Yogendra, Mahadeva Natarajadhi Raja, Asha Pasha Nasha Isha. Beautiful lyrics. Asha Pasha Nasha Isha. The Lord is who? Asha Pasha Nasha he does. Asha means desires. Pasha means the noose, the snare of desires. Nasha means the one who destroys. So if you go to God, should he fulfill your desires and make you even more desirous of the world, or should he destroy your desires? What should he do? He's by definition he's Asha Pasha Nasha, right? How can he do anything other than that? So when you have to go to God and say, please give me more wealth, give me this, give me that, give me this. Shanchame, Mayashchame, why should he give? My question is. If he is giving, is he doing a favor to you is my question. He is giving you more desires, because once a desire is fulfilled, you think you are done. No, another desire will rise. Then another will rise. The only way to stop desires is not to fulfill them. If you put fuel in the fire, it will burn more, it will ask for more. The only way is that don't give. That's why Guru is called Nirindhana Nalaha. It means he is the one who, a fire without fuel. Shankaracharya describes Guru in Viveka Chudamani. Nirindhana Iva Nalaha. The one who is fuelless, that fire. Anala means fire. Nirindhana means the one without any fuel. So he has no desires basically. There is nothing to motivate him to do things. Yet he does out of compassion for others, that's a different matter. But he is not fueled by desires. His actions are not fueled by desires for worldly things. So a person who is a jnani should have become like that. That is the Ashtavakra's basic question. That if such a thing has happened to you, then you should see the world like the illusory silver in the mother of pearl. And then you should not be running after it anymore. You should have overcome that. You shouldn't be, in fact, running what? He says, you should not be begging. Dina iva. Dina means a poor person, a beggar. Dhavasi means runs. When he sees some little, he runs for that. Beggars run. The moment a rich man's car comes to the temple, look at all the beggars run behind the car, isn't it? Ishtan bhogan hi vo deva dasyante yajna bhavita. All the gods give us whatever we need out of yajna bhava. We offer our gratitude to them. They anyway take care of us. They don't need to be told. They don't need to be asked for. They don't need to be demanded for such things. Gods by nature are compassionate. They'll do what is right for you. And what your karmas are, see, you cannot overcome them. So you go to God's temple to offer gratitude, not to ask more. Not to ask more. You go there, I'll offer you this, you give me this in return. That doesn't work with gods. And if any god is doing that, either he better have a good reason for it, or else he is not a god at all. Because why should he trap you further into the noose of desires by fulfilling one after the other? What the good is that? You tell me. So he is neither not a god at all, or if he's fulfilling the desire, he has some greater idea in mind of something bigger. Then he is doing it's all right. But in between the two, I don't know how many people really live like that who go to God for a greater. Like go to God as for Vishwa Kalyanam. When they ask Atirudra, I told it is for world peace. For Vishwa Shanti, we should do Atirudra Yajna. What is the Sankalpa? Sankalpa is not to become rich and wealthy and this and that. Sankalpa is that Vishwa Shanti should be there. Everybody should live in peace. That's fine, a desire. That if that desire Shiva fulfills, let there be world peace. Should I be called a Dina Iva Dhavasi beggar? No, I'm not begging for myself. I'm bigger only, I'm not beggar. Why? Because it's something bigger I have asked. For everybody's good. Let there be Vishwa Shanti. That's a good reason to go to God. Otherwise, just go to God to say thank you, to say gratitude to God. What should be the third reason? Tell me. Third reason is not worth it. Third reason is beggary. Spiritual beggars, religious beggars. That is not what we are supposed to be. So we can all laugh at these answers, but it applies to all of us. How many of us are really not begging ever? We are all begging all the time. We cannot, we should not. That is not our nature. Ashtavakra says that is not your nature. When you know everything is illusory, what is there to go and beg for? So you should be real king. He's in a sarcastic, look at the words choice. He is a king, but he calls him, if you run behind the worldly things after this discourse of mine, I am going to call you a beggar. That's what he's telling him. If you ever come back to me with any other worldly idea and desires, I am going to call you a beggar and not a devotee, not a king. This is what Ashtavakra is telling Janaka. But that cannot be our nature. We are beggars. We are bigger than that. That nature, once you are established in, whatever comes and happens, you will accept it. I said, "Woi din hati to koi din goda." Doesn't matter how we live. Everything is okay. Why? Because everything is under divine will. We have no insistence, no particularity, no peculiar reason for doing things. We just do it as a part of that. Let us not become beggars in front of and ask for petty things and go back happy. Oh, we have got as much as we could. No. He has much more to do with us, much more to give us. But when we get stuck in these silly, petty, small desires of the world, we miss the big picture. We miss the opportunity of doing something greater, bigger with our lives. Because we have shortchanged ourselves of this opportunity of being in front of God, like going and asking coffee podi to a kalpavriksha. Bhagavan would tell that story and joke. How a man's wife told, my mother and father are coming, there is no coffee podi at home, you better get something from the market. This man goes to the market, shops are closed, there is band on that day. He is crying, if I go home, my wife is not going to be very happy because if it was my mother and father, it was okay, but if it's her mother and father coming, my in-laws. So he sits under a tree and cries, what to do? I can't go home without coffee powder. Just then a saint is passing by. He says, why are you crying? I am crying for this reason. You are not aware, you are sitting under Kalpa Vriksha. Whatever you ask, this tree can give you. This wish fulfilling tree. Oh really? Please get me half kg coffee powder, he says. That's all it is for our fate, because our minds are petty, our thoughts are small, and our thinking is very narrow. Because of which we take God also and make that opportunity so small for ourselves. God is capable of much more. He can do bigger things with our lives. If only we get rid of these silly desires. Because otherwise, what happens? You go to Him and ask for these things, He will say, Tadastu, take that and go. That's it. Your opportunity is done and gone. You say, I have nothing to ask. I am only here to offer gratitude for all that you already have done and will be doing and you are doing. I have nothing to say, nothing to ask. I am just here to enjoy your presence. God will become happy. He will say, come here. You are going to be my instrument. And I will use your life to do so much of good to so many people, to do what I have come here to do. And suddenly everything changes. From an ordinary Jivatma, you become Paramatma. From an ordinary seeker, you become the very sought, the very truth. Why? Because you have offered yourself in submission without any desires. So don't shortchange of yourself of opportunities, especially once you realize the self, all the more you cannot fall into the old patterns anymore. Why? Because you have transformed yourself. But even if you're not fully transformed, the first step is to start reducing your desires, then replacing all the desires, and then relegating all the desires. All three can happen step by step. Reduce, then slowly replace, and then refuse or relegate. Do not have to fulfill any of those desires. So if you believe that you are truly like this world is like the wave on the ocean of consciousness, then where is the question of you running behind anything of the world? Is the question that our Ashtavakra is asking Janaka. It's more like a cross questioning to check whether everything is understood correctly. Fourth shloka, it says, Shrutvapi Shuddha Chaitanyam Atmanam Atisundaram Upasthe Atyanta Sansaktau Malinyam Adigachati. It says, Shrutvapi Shuddha Chaitanyam. Even after hearing about this Shuddha Chaitanya, pure consciousness, which is unblemished, untarnished, sinless, guileless, stainless, such a beautiful Chaitanya that you have come to know of by listening to me, Atmanam Ati Sundaram, and have you realized that your Atma, yourself, is that pure consciousness which is Ati Sundaram. Satyam Shivam Sundaram is this self's description. It is Ati Sundaram, it's a beautiful experience. It's a beautiful experience that you realize that you are the self and you have heard such a beautiful discourse on the self. Then also, upasthe atyanta sansaktau. Upastha means your reproductive organs, or in general it is saying your senses. Despite having heard about the self, despite having understood the beauty of it, if you still go and get entangled in your senses back and go back into the same behavior and patterns, and ati sansakto, not even ordinarily engaged, extremely desirous and extremely attached and engaged, malinya madhyachi, then impurity will happen to you. That purity of the self that you have heard of, understood, enjoyed, experienced, you seem to say, if after this you again go back and engage in the same pleasures of the senses, while he quoted one because that's the most difficult one, kama. After that, all other things, krodha, lobha, moha, all this follow. He says, if that sense itself you get engaged in, and that too with such intensity, then you will attain impurity, and all this goodness will be destroyed. That he's just checking again, as I said, are you still desirous of the sensual pleasures, or have you grown above and beyond that? If not, all this is going to become impure. Like if you bring a lot of pure Ganga Jal water from somewhere, and one drop of poison falls in it, and then you tell everybody, it's Ganga water, Ganga water. They say, but there is a poison drop in it. He says, but that's one drop of poison, rest of it is Ganges water. Still nobody will take it. Why? Because that one drop of poison has rendered the entire pot of water impure. So he is telling that you have to be, now that you have realized the self, by virtue of realizing it, desire for the world should have disappeared by now. But even if there is a desire, can't be ati sansaktaha, it is says, atyanta samsaktaha, he says. Excessively attachment should not be there. Attachment should have reduced by now for you. Even if you have not completely got detached from your senses, your excessive attachment to your senses should have come down. Moderation should have happened by now on the spiritual path. Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnava bodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkhaha. If not fully, completely detached from your senses and sense pleasures, at least there should have been reduction in the intensity of your attachment to it. Somebody sent me a very nice acronym for how to check your spiritual meter. FIR it is called, not the first information report that you file in the police station. FIR means frequency, intensity and recovery, it seems. How frequently are you now still engaged in your senses? How intensely are you engaged in that? And how quickly you recover from such desires? These are the measures of one's spiritual progress on the spiritual path. Anything or any disturbance, anger, let us say. How frequently you get angry, how intensely you get angry, and how quickly you recover from anger, that is the measure of your spiritual success. It means now it's not as frequent as earlier, not as intense as earlier, and you recover very fast. You come back to that state of zero very quickly. These are the measures that you are growing spiritually. So he says, you cannot be excessively engaged in the world anymore. You should develop some kind of virakti. After having listened about the pure consciousness, after having listened about all the wonderful, beautiful experiences of the Gyanis and Atma Gyanis, now your engagement, excessive engagement with senses and sense pleasure cannot happen because it will render all your efforts impure. From a crack, all the water will leak off. So therefore, here onwards, that can't be your way. In a way, it is a reminder. It is also a check on Janaka's capacity to remain that way, free from this. And I had told earlier, 5 animals are there. Shabdadivhi panchabhireva panchaha, panchatva mapuhu sagunena baddhaha, kuranga matanga patanga meena bhranga, nara panchabhiranchi takkim, he says. One kuranga, matanga, patanga, meena, bhringa. The deer, elephant, moth, fly, matanga, meena, the fish, and bhringa, the bee. They are bound by only one sense each. The deer by sound, elephant by touch, the patanga, the firefly or moth by the eyes or the sight, and then this patanga, meena, fish because of taste, and bringa, that is bee, because of smell. One sense organ itself is the cause for their ruin. And then Shankaracharya says, man is bound by all the five. Think about the plight of man, because he cannot resist any of the senses. He is bound by all the five, as if there are five chains around him. So it's even more difficult to redeem oneself. So one has to be not excessively engaged. Once some children were asking, I told simple thing is frequency should reduce, intensity for desire should reduce, and eventually it won't go off on one fine day, because this is punara janma janmantara samskaras are there. They can't just go away like that. But it can reduce and reduce. You keep replacing with higher things, and finally one day you completely are capable of refusing it. But that will take time. But you should watch the FIR now. Watch the FIR, how angry you get, how desirous you get, how upset you get, how restless you get, how anxious you get. Everything you should check on this meter of how frequently, how intensely, and how quickly you are able to recover from that. The next sloka says, Sarva bhuteshu chatmanam, sarva bhutani chatmani, muner janata ashcharyam mamattam anuvartate. He says, once the self person who realizes the self, he realizes the Sarva Bhuteshu Chatmanam. I am the one in all the beings. Sarva Bhutani Chatmani. All the beings are in me, because we are one consciousness and not separate. Munehe means this learned one. Janat. He knows that this is the truth. Ashcharyam. Then it is a wonder that despite that he behaves with attachments, mamatvam, that this is mine and that is not mine. How can both happen together? Once he claims that I am the one who realizes that everything is in me and I am in everything, how is it possible for such a jnani to behave with partiality, with discrimination, with differences of us versus them, mine versus theirs, or I versus you? How is it possible for that person to see the difference again? So he is asking Janaka that these things should not happen to you anymore. If you still see things differently despite all that, and you are attached to certain things, then you have not attained the real self. You have only understood theoretically. Like many of us, very easy when we read all these things, it feels very good and we think, wow, we know it. But then the moment we step out of the room, suddenly all our old habits, ideas, attachments, they enter us again. Why? Because those are not gone from the roots. They are there. They are there. They are not yet fully burnt. They are still there. They grow back. So the idea is that once you realize the self, where is this difference and discrimination in you? It shouldn't exist. You should be equal to all. All should be equal to you. How should you differentiate after having realized the self? That is the idea of our Ashtavakra, who says that this is not possible. If you are this, then you can't be that. If you are that, you can't be this. It's binary, I told you. Either you are God or you are not. You can't be half God and half man. That is not allowed in spiritual. You are fully transformed into divinity, or you are still human on the way to transformation. That's it. 99.999% also is human only, who is about to reach divinity. Only when you become divine, you become divine. Then there is no humanity. So this is the idea that if you realize the self, you should be behaving according to this. Then there is the next sloka on the page number, the next page, 207. It says, आस्थितः परमाद्वैतं मोक्षार्थेपि व्यवस्थितः आश्चर्यं कामवशगो विकलः केलिशिक्षया. Again he is bringing up the topic of one's desire for the sense and sense pleasures. He says, though one is asthitaha, established in paramadvaitam, in the ultimate supreme non-dual principle one is established, moksharthepi vyavasthita, and also is firmly established on the path of moksha, but supposed to be walking on the path of moksha, his desire is of moksha, he has mumukshatva. At that time also, ascharyam, it would be a wonder, kamavashago vikalaha, by the influence of desires, under the control of desires, such a person becomes vikalaha. Vikalaha means incapacitated. Such a person becomes incapacitated under the influence of his desires, and kela shikshaya, through playful learning, imperfect. It means the very idea that you are established in non-dual self and you are set on this path of liberation, despite that, if you are under the sway of desires, and by mere thought of sensual enjoyment, oh, I could enjoy this, I could eat this, go there, do this, itself makes you helpless in front of the desire. If this is happening to you as if you are an incapacitated person, then it is a wonder, how is it possible, he is saying. Once you realize the self, these desires should hold no power over you. And a little thought of some desire should not shake you off from this path and make you feel so helpless in front of that burning, whatever the desire, that you lose all control. Can't happen like this, he says. So these are the things we have to check. If this is happening to us, it means we are still a long way. If it's not happening to us, it means we have come some distance. So he's saying that once you have realized the self and Advaita, your desires, especially for the sense pleasures, cannot hold sway and cannot make you feel so helpless. Many people, I didn't want to shout, I did not want to be angry, I did not want to, but somehow it happened. Remember Arjuna said last time, Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varsneya baladiv niyojitaha. What happens, O Krishna, that I lose control over myself whenever I am confronted with such weak situations. And I seem to be losing every control on my mind and senses. And again I commit the same mistake. Why do people do this? As if they've been forced to do this, as if they've been pushed to do that. As if though they are not desirous of it, they end up in that. Why does it happen? Think of these drunkards. Mark Twain said, it's very easy to quit smoking. I have done it 100 times. That's what it is. That bound by the desire, they cannot, they just say they have overcome it, but next incident, they've lost all control. They've again fallen for it. Again one resolution, no, this is the last time. Like that 100 times happen, we don't come out of it at all. They keep repeating to ourselves. Why? Because we are not serious. See, when you have mukshutva, when you have a purpose, when you have a strong will to attain the highest, all other things you will not bother. If somebody's hair has caught fire, he wants only water. That time, what desire? I am going to give you a nice cheesecake, come. No, I don't want. I'll give you 1 kg of gold, come. No, first my hair is on fire. First, get me a water. That's all I want, to dunk my head and, cool my head. I am not interested. No, there is one Apsara coming from the heaven, like Vishwamitra fell for Menaka, no? If he really had the burning desire to be a Brahmagyani, Brahma Rishi, why would I fall for Menaka? Why he fell? Because he was not having this perfect pursuit of the self desire for the ultimate supreme. He was doing it to defeat Vashishta. You know the story of Vashishta Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra was not a rishi, he was a king like Janaka. Kaushika his name was. And he was a very powerful king, very capable. So once he was returning from a war with one full Akshwahuni Sena. Now Akshwahuni Sena means there are 2,17,18,000 people in that. Includes elephants, chariots and people on foot, people on horses like that. So the whole 2 lakh plus people he was bringing with him, and then he happens to come across they were all hungry and tired. They come across the ashrama of Vashishta Muni. And when they come there, Vashishta receives them with great honor and he asks them about what is the welfare and things like that. And the king is very shy to ask any help because he knows what this poor little ashrama can provide for so many people. But Vashishta says, don't worry, I will feed all the people. He said, how is it possible? He said, don't worry, I will take care. Whatever they require also I will produce and give them. Let them all sit for a meal. So all of them sit and Vasishta's people are feeding and people desire for things like, I want this particular thing to eat, that is coming to them. So our Kaushika Muni is surprised. How is it possible? So he asks Vasishta. Vasishta says, I have a wish fulfilling cow given to me by gods for my ashrama. And with that we are maintaining the ashrama. And with that we are running the show, and I do it for Homa, Yajna, Yagas, for everything. This Nandini, the cow, is very helpful. It is because of that we are. So king says, if such a cow exists, I am the king, it should be with me, why should it be with you? And he becomes desirous of the cow. And he offers Vashishta, I'll give you so much gold, I'll give you so many elephants, so many other cows, 1 crore other cows I'll give you, you give me this one cow. He says, no, this is not about I wanting to have it. This is what God's gave me to run this place, this ashram. This is the lifeline of the ashram and we can't give it away like that. So then this Kaushika gets very angry and he wages a war. But Vashishta is a Brahmagyani. With his power, he finishes off the whole Akshayavani Sena itself. 2 lakh people gone. Then this Kaushika is shaken. He says, what power this man must be having? He says, I will come back and defeat this man somehow. I will also do tapasya and attain all the powers and come back and defeat. That is why he goes to do tapasya. But his desire was to defeat this man and steal the cow. It was not to really attain any Brahmagyana. He did tapas for lower reasons. So when he was doing tapas like that, he was becoming very, very powerful. That time they think this man, if becomes powerful, already is a very greedy man and also very desirous of things. and he has ill intentions. If he becomes very powerful, it will be another trouble. So they send Menaka. Menaka was one of these damsels from the heavens. Very beautiful, it seems. She comes down, and there's a whole description in Mahabharata you can read. And looking at her, he falls because she's so beautiful that he couldn't resist her beauty. And so he falls for her. They marry. Then they have this daughter called Shakuntala. That Shakuntala's son is Bharata, who is the king of the country Bharata in those days. So that was how Vishwamitra, because he had other lower desires, he had not finished the desires from the root. He went to do tapas not for sake of attaining Brahmagyana. He went to do tapas so that he develops power with which he can defeat Vashishta. And because his idea of tapas itself was wrong, he was still having all these lower desires. So when Menaka comes, he just falls. If it was real tapasvi, he would have seen Menaka also as one more form of that Brahman. He wouldn't be able to see her as a woman, and therefore there won't be any desire arising in him. But because he saw as different from him as another woman who is also beautiful, so he became desirous of her, and that is how he fell for her, and that is how this whole thing happened. So this is what this is saying, that astita paramadvaitam, if you are really established in the self, and you see sarva bhuteshu chatmanam sarva bhutani chat, if all this is there, then ascharyam kama vashugo vikalha kela shikshaya. How can you become helpless in front of your desire? And every time he uses kama, because amongst the six Tarishat Varga, kama is one of the most difficult ones. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsara. So Vishwamitra was already having Lobha in him, Krodha in him, Mada in him, Matsara in him. And kama was naturally there. But against Vasistha, he was using the other things, anger, greed, jealousy, all that was using against Vasistha. But his own weakness was kama. So the moment he saw the woman, he could not see the self in that. Therefore he became desirous, and so this happened. So what he's saying is that once you have reached that state, all these should not perturb you anymore. You can't be helpless in front of these things. Very use of words you should see. He says, atyanta sansakta should not be there. Yes, you want to eat. That's not a bad desire. I will eat this only and I will eat this much. That is a bad desire. If this is not there, I shall not eat. This kind of stubbornness is not there anymore. Yes, you are married. You have a reason why you have karma, and you have the reason to produce children for the betterment of society. To that extent is fine. It can't be more than that. Yes, sometimes teachers have to set the students right. A little anger helps. But that is for a purpose. That is not to take revenge and harm somebody. So, atyanta sangsakti you cannot be in your ideas of world and desires. Some within the ambience or within the ambit of yoga, it is okay. As long as it is moderated and it is used for dharma, it is okay. Other than that, extreme engagement with any of the worldly things is not the nature of a jnani. That's what he's saying. So he's kind of reminding Janaka that if you end up like this, then know for sure that you are not perfected yet. You are thinking you have become perfect, like those Brahmagyanis of that kingdom. They think they are Brahmagyanis, but when the real acid test is put, one desire arises in front of you, you are all shaken and helpless. And that's it. That's the end of your Brahmagyana. So if that is happening to you, then you are not yet Brahmagyani or Janaka. In this way, he is trying to kind of goad him and in a way instigate him and check on his perfection of understanding of Brahmagyana. On this path of spirituality, as I said, all desires can be given up, all relations can be given up, all pursuits can be given up, no harm. Nobody can call you, oh, you are an escapist, you ran away from your responsibilities like Swami Vivekananda. Nobody can call you. So be ready to give up anything for the sake of realizing the self. Nothing matters if you are really, truly, because anyway, these are mirages. Anyway, these are illusory. These are dream relations, dream wealth, dream happiness and dream sorrows. How does it matter? It doesn't matter. That's confirmed conviction is there, then one is able to give up all other pursuits.